everybody, Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here, and thoughts and prayers please, because after watching England versus Brazil, I've come down with a nasty case of Euros fever. Although, judging by the response on the internet, it does not currently appear to be contagious.
What? I see this as an absolute win.
Alright, so as you probably saw at the weekend, England played Brazil. They got beat 1-0. That made people quite sad. But I thought, me, personally, the idiot on the internet, that it actually showed precisely how this England team is going to set up at the Euros. And A, why that's really, really close to being a really good system. But also B, why there's still one fairly major thing they're going to need to fix if it's going to work against the top sides. Now, this was the England team that started that game, and I think if the tournament was starting like today, that's more or less what it would be, barring the obvious injuries. Bukayo Saka, he would definitely be in. Harry Kane, he would definitely be in. And Luke Shaw would definitely be in. Now, it has changed quite a bit since the last World Cup, and that's because of the emergence of this man. He was kind of part of a midfield three. He was just sort of one of the team then, but he's now so important. The system has to work in a way that maximizes the impact he can have at the very top of the pitch. But the other fairly major change that Gareth Southgate has made to it is now it is also a very high pressing team. If you think back to that sort of first 60 minutes against Brazil, England were trying to pen them in their own half. Like, Brazil refused to go long from goal kicks. They had 4 players pretty much camped on the edge of their box, trying to stop them playing out. You had Jude Bellingham pretty much just joining Ollie Watkins straight up front. Both the midfield pivots, they pushed right the way up, and the defence pretty much sat on the halfway line. The plan was to sit slightly off Brazil's fullbacks, force the balls to go out there, and then really aggressively push onto them to try and turn the ball over. Meanwhile, you sort of had Declan Rice in the middle, who was blocking off the pass to Paqueta. That was Brazil's outball, and when England did turn the ball over, he would then go beyond Paqueta, get into sort of attacking areas, and see if he would bother to track with him. And in some regards, it did work really well. Like, Brazil were never able to build up through the middle of England's press. They penned them in really well, and they forced them to just clear the ball blindly upfield 12 times in the first half alone. Like, for context, England did that 0 times. But it also, as people have pointed out, didn't really create any particularly good chances. Like, England had good territory, but they couldn't really make it work when they did turn the ball over. And I do think a degree of that is down to the personnel. Like, you would want Bukayo Saka and Harry Kane in this, but instead you had Foden on the right, which is not where he's at his best. You had Watkins, who hasn't really played with a lot of these players very much. You had Gordon, who was really good but was making his debut. It lacked that sort of connectivity, that synergy that would make it sing. But in terms of stopping Brazil doing what they wanted to do, denying them the ability to play out from the back, showing that as a unit you can execute that high press, it was really good. And they're going to go into a tournament where the vast majority of teams, regardless of their ability level, will be wanting to play out from the back. And in that regard, you'd consider it a successful trial run. However, and this is what we're really here to talk about, it left England about as defensively open as they have ever been under Gareth Southgate. There's an absolutely sensational stat in The Athletic this morning that England gave up 7 big chances in this game, which is more in this one match than they did in the entirety of the last Euros and the last World Cup. And that is because playing this way comes with an inherent risk of all this space being left at the back. If you want to be this high pressing, you need to stop teams playing in here, and England did not do that. The problem here, you see, was not the press. That was very good. It was the counter press. When England had possession and they gave away the ball, Brazil were able to exploit the space in the back and get their forwards in. About 10 minutes into the game, England have made a really bright start. They've penned Brazil in. It's looking pretty good. But then Brazil get a chance almost straight away that they should score from. They work the ball out to Ben Chilwell here. You can see players are starting to get into the box. I don't think crossing it here is a particularly good decision, but even if it was, it's not a particularly good cross. Brazil deal with it relatively easily, and possession is turned over. Now, for this system to work, this is the moment in which, as a squad, you need to be perfectly organised and you need to aggressively win that ball back. And you can see here, because England are attacking, that space has opened up between their lines. They've gotten a little bit stretched, but positionally, they are set perfectly. Conor Gallagher and Declan Rice are both here for the counter-press. Knowing that Ben Chilwell has pushed all the way up and the space is now on the left, Declan Rice has a quick little scan to see whether or not somebody can break into that. He spots... I think this is Rodrigo or Rafinha here, and he holds his position, so Conor Gallagher has to go and close down Paqueta. Now, the best counter-pressing side you've ever seen, think like Liverpool in those first couple of years under Klopp, would have the kind of players who would win this ball back in this moment, and then use the fact that Brazil was starting to come out of their defensive shape to create an easy chance. But failing that, the way this is supposed to work is that Gallagher should at least get touch tight to Paqueta here, stop him turning, force the ball to go backwards, possibly into a player who doesn't really want it, and then the rest of the squad then put the pressure on, and again, you try and win it back. But what happens is that Lucas Paqueta takes an unbelievable touch, pulls this ball out of the air, and spins Gallagher. And this is the big Achilles heel of this system, because if that ball gets past your counter press to the feet of a player who can pick a pass, and you have forwards who are really quick, you are f***ed. England are camped on the halfway line. They are all facing the wrong way, and I don't know if there is a Brazilian expression for shit off a shiny shovel, but Vinicius Jr. is that. Now, thankfully, though, England's get-out-of-jail-free card in these situations, and part of the reason they'll feel confident doing it, is Kyle Walker's recovery pace. He gets back, he clears the ball off the line, and he bails them out of that situation. But he then, of course, went off injured. England lose that safety net, and that should bring in to astonishingly, terrifyingly sharp focus how important it is to get this counter press right. Because this exact thing kept happening throughout the game. Like, there's another example in the first half. England lose the ball. They're a little bit lax in getting the counter press right. Brazil play through them and get in down the right. And of course, predictably, it is what got Brazil their goal. England lose the ball down the left-hand side, and they have several chances to stop Brazil playing forward. Both Rashford and Mainu failed to stop it here. Then when Dunk steps out to put that sort of awkward clearance in, Phil Foden should be smashing into this player, should be getting the side of the ball, he should be stopping him making any kind of forward pass, but he doesn't. Brazil get in over the top, and that's where they score from. Now, crucially, that is not me digging out Phil Foden or Kobbie Mainoo. Both of them are incredibly talented footballers, but they're incredibly talented on the ball players. They both have really important roles in this England squad, in my opinion, but neither of them are good at counter-pressing. The problem is Conor Gallagher. Ahead of kick-off, there were quite a lot of eyebrows raised about Conor Gallagher's inclusion in this side, because he doesn't really feel like he's at the same sort of level as a lot of the players around him. There's a lot of clamour to see Mainu start. There's certainly other options in the middle, so why did he go with him? Well, if you think about the midfield as a unit, right, you've got Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice. Now, for all Declan Rice has a sort of steely rigidity to his reputation, he's never been someone who flies around the pitch from left to right, winning the ball back. He reads the game brilliantly, and he is good in a tackle when required, but he's so much better on the ball. You've seen from the way in really big games, Arsenal have moved him up to the 8 instead of the sort of the sitting player, to allow him to progress the ball forward, to carry the ball forward, to be involved at the other end of the pitch. And it's the same with Jude Bellingham. He reads the game brilliantly, and he can win the ball back when required, but it's not his game. It's not his job in this team. They've got him in this position to impact things going forward, not to be constantly running from left to right, closing down loose balls. And so, that's why you have Conor Gallagher. Now, if you're not a Chelsea fan, you might just need to trust me on this, but he is, honestly, this season, probably the best off-the-ball, counter-pressing midfielder England have. Like, if we look at this all side by side, you can see the thought process of precisely what Gallagher's supposed to be bringing to this midfield unit. Like, he is almost the Premier League's leading midfielder for the number of tackles won in the final third, and he scores right at the top of the numbers for interceptions, for blocks, for just winning the ball in the middle, for everything else you want a counter-pressing team to have. But all of those numbers count for diddly if you get spun in this situation and allow Lucas Paqueta to ping a ball over the top. And there is a reason why he is so good at this for Chelsea, but looked completely lost playing for England this weekend, and that is because at Chelsea, he isn't playing here. He's playing here. Gallagher leads both the press and the counter-press for Chelsea from the number 10 position. It allows him to push up the way Bellingham did when they're trying to pen teams in, but also because Chelsea have a lot of width from their fullbacks, allows him to sit off while the inside forwards kind of tuck in, and the width is provided by the wide players. So that, fundamentally, is the problem England have got right now. They've got an on-the-ball system where they're putting their most dangerous, most talented, most attacking player in the number 10 role, because that's going to get the best out of him and it helps them pen teams in, but they're so reliant on having a good counter press that is being led and propped up by someone who needs to do that from the number 10 position. I don't think those things can live together. Now, annoyingly, there is an incredibly simple solution to this, and that is you just play them as a 3. You ask Jude Bellingham to be a lot more conservative, stay on this left-hand side, which he does quite like to do. Gallagher goes that side, and then you've got Rice behind them both as a safety net, so whenever you're getting the counter press on, they can charge the ball, even if they do get done here and there, because they're slightly deeper. It's not the end of the world. But sadly for all involved, in the last 12 months, Jude Bellingham has emerged not as a very useful number 8, but as probably the best goal-scoring midfielder in world football. Like, do you want to see those numbers? Because they're mad. The guy's chance creation stats, which is like the main thing you're looking for from a number 8, are pretty average considering he plays for Real Madrid. Nothing really too exceptional about that. But his actual goal threat numbers will blow your flipping lid off. And you simply cannot have someone who is that good in front of goal playing here. You have to put them in a position that maximizes that threat. And I will just say this, right, because I know Gareth Southgate gets so much stick on the internet for being perceived as negative or holding this team back or not having the balls to really go and get teams. Given the players England have at their disposal, this high-pressing team with Bellingham right at the front of it is probably the most aggressive system he could be using. It's made England as front foot as they have ever been while he's been the manager, but at the same time, it's made them as open at the back as it's ever been with him as the manager. And how do you fix that? Well, people aren't going to like it, but this is international football, so you probably just have to pick the player you think is going to be best at this, in which case, Conor Gallagher, and then you just put your faith in them. You use the very limited time you have on the training ground to try and address this, and then you get to a major tournament and you pray. And one really quick final thing, because there is a reason why I'm so actually upbeat about that 1-0 defeat when everyone's really down on it, right? And it's Brazil. They are probably the worst team you could ever try and experiment with this system against, and largely it worked. Like, think about it. All their central midfielders are great under pressure and can do to Conor Gallagher what Paqueta did. And all their forwards love to race in behind. So they've got loads of options when that happens. Other teams aren't as perfectly suited to playing against this system as Brazil are. And by and large, it worked pretty well. So, just to conclude here, this is obviously a work in progress, and I do think the Belgium game is going to be a complete mess given all the injuries, but you should, I think, allow yourself the giddy thrill of being slightly excited about what this England team might be going to do at the Euros. They've got the players, they've got a system that's designed to maximise the really good ones. It needs work, there's still a big issue to fix, but not bad. But yes, as I said at the start of the video, very much in the thralls of Euros fever am I, so please do subscribe to us here on 442 as we ramp up all our coverage of all the home nations leading into the tournament, and I take a one-man stance that it's just okay to feel joy and enjoy your national side, instead of just constantly thinking it's not as good as it could be. You can tell me I'm an idiot for doing so over on all the social medias at Adam Cleary, CLERY, and I've just joined TikTok, because apparently I'm not as old as I feel, and they're doing stuff there, so I needed to be on it. But I've just started, and I've posted one video, and I've got like 40 followers. So if you have that app and you'd like to follow me, that would make my heart grow 2 sizes. Ba-boom. In the meantime, though, please forgive me. I forgot to show off the, I don't know why that's there, magazines throughout the video. Latest issue with Trent Alexander-Arnold on the cover. And we are working on the first of our Euros specials now, which will have Euros tactics in them. So do look out for those when they are in stores. And yeah, that's it from me. Until next time. Yeah, I think that's everything. I should have a checklist. I'm going to start doing a checklist for the end of videos. And I'm also going to stop talking. Goodbye.